So we are going to talk about the stimulus package that was supposedly finally decided upon last night after midnight, and then talk a little bit about the virus in the context in which it lives in. And I'm going to screen share some of the information basically that I came up with last night. I'm going to wait a minute for people to start to show up a little bit before I start talking. So I apologize if I'm quiet for a little while. I'm going to start screen sharing this. So as of right now, the context of the new stimulus package basically states that, I'm going to have to read it to you guys exactly. We're going to go to Chrome tab, Facebook, share. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Please let me know if you can see what I'm looking at with the share screen here on the right. Actually, I'm not going to start with the stimulus package first because I'm going to look that up as I'm talking to you. Let's look at my Facebook where I put this up last night. Oh yeah, here, by the way, listen to this video real quick. Come on.
Hey, fuck you! Yes! Yes! Fuck you too! Good morning, my neighbor! Hey, fuck you! Yes! Yes! Fuck you too!
Morning, guys. All right, so I wrote this up last night. This is, information about the coronavirus, the virus itself, and the shell that it lives in. The coronavirus is an envelope virus, and basically what that means is it's enveloped in a layer of lipid, in a layer of fat, and it's surrounded by that fat. Inside is where all the magic happens. If the fatty layer is disrupted and the process stops inside, the virus dies. So about 20 seconds of hand washing, they say, where you're getting between the fingers, around the sides of your hands, your wrists and stuff like that, you're really kind of purposely trying to make an effort to wash your hands. It's not the fact that you're washing your hands to wash your hands. It's the fact that you're washing your hands to break up that lipid layer on the outside that exposes that virus to the elements. A lot of people are freaking out. They want to go get all this hand sanitizer and stuff like that and everything else. The hand sanitizer doesn't really do anything in the grand scheme of things. It's the alcohol that's in it that helps break down that fatty layer around that lipid or that lipid shell, that membrane that encases the virus. So a lot of people are under the impression that buying all these hand sanitizers and stuff like that is really doing a whole lot, and it's really not. If you look at some of the government articles that I have listed here, the FDA with antibacterial soaps, if you clicked on that, it says you can skip it basically, because they found that there's no real hardcore evidence that even the antibacterial stuff that's in the hand sanitizers or the antibacterial soaps and stuff like that really do what they say it does. It's the alcohol content that makes everything happen. It's not so much the antibacterial soaps in the hand sanitizers that have the extra ingredients and stuff in there that do anything. Antibacterial soaps, they're saying, is almost a joke, because a lot of the stuff that's in there, a lot of companies lay claim to it being an antibacterial product when there's no real hardcore evidence that the antibacterial stuff that's in the soaps actually do what they say they do. There's never been any kind of extensive testing to actually make sure those things are true. The reason it's so important to use the soap is it's to break apart the fatty lipid layer, exposing the virus to the elements. The virus needs the fatty layer, and without it, it dies. This is also part of the reason drinking warm liquids periodically can help wash it into the stomach, where it will be destroyed. The warm liquids help remove help remove and move these viruses into the stomach where they're destroyed. I like using some dish soap, honestly, but it's a personal preference. Nothing cuts grease like Mechanic's hand cleaner or dish soap, Dawn, Palmolive, Joy, etc. Antibacterial soaps only do so much, and some say that they're not as effective, if not a waste of money, but it's still not a bad idea to use it if you have it. It can't hurt, but you're really wasting your money using them anyway. You just need soap, breaking down the layer of fat to expose it to the elements and death to the virus. I took a few photos from a video on Vox where it was an actual person showing you exactly how you should be washing your hands and exactly what the soap does to break apart this fatty layer around the virus. And if you remember, just days ago, before this video even came out, I was talking about how viruses that are encased in fat simply just need soap to break them down. And I briefly brought that up in a couple of my videos. And, there was a couple messages that I got afterwards as people were saying, you're kind of playing this off. It's much more than just soap breaking apart the lipid layer, the membrane around the virus. And that's not the case. I was actually 100% correct. The more you look into these viruses, the more you see the main purpose is this fatty layer around the outside that protects everything that goes on inside. There's a lot of transactions that have to take place inside here. The virus has to mutate, pass through the membrane, pass back into the membrane, or pass back to the other side of the membrane. Then it does a second form of chemical reaction. And there's a number of things that happen inside this little virus shell. But once these amino acids and fatty acids break down on the outside and allow elements exposed to the virus, this virus can't do its thing anymore. It can't do this multiple conversion creation process, and it basically breaks itself down. It doesn't like heat because that lipid layer, for one, will break down. That's why you don't see as many cases in the hotter climates. That's why you see, like the northern parts of the United States blowing up like crazy, and the southern part, I'm not going to try to take anything away from them. They do have a bad issue going on right now, but there's nowhere near the amount of cases in the south from what I've seen, depending on the diagrams that you look at. And that's not even the talking point here. The fact of the matter is the warm liquids just wash it out of the throat, where they say it can congregate and it causes some coughing issues and stuff like that, and it will end up washing it out of your throat into your stomach, so your stomach acid can do its thing and just destroy this thing. The second picture that I have here is showing you breaking apart the shell. So as that soap, as you wash your hands, you start picking apart that lipid layer and exposing that virus to the outer elements. And then here, the lipid layer around the virus is going, basically break it apart and just wash it straight down the drain, and it's no longer effective anymore. The video, let's see here, where's that? Here's the video. You can just look at Google coronavirus and Vox video, hand washing video, and there's a lot of good information in there. But I was talking about this information that you'll find in this video, in several of my other videos, where people were kind of giving me grief about the gist of what I was saying. I wasn't downplaying the seriousness of the virus. I was basically telling you that just soap in general will break this virus up. It will expose it. And why do you think that they were saying washing your clothes, if you have just dirty clothes sitting around where you've been outside and then you've come back in, is important to do your laundry every couple of days if you can afford to do it, because that soap that you put in your clothes in general breaks apart fat fairly well. And that's another good way to combat this and break apart this virus and expose it to the elements. So it's not so much that I was downplaying as much as I was really being sincere and honest about how this particular envelope virus, it's an envelope virus, which it's encased in a layer of fat, is destroyed. And it's not so much from the chemicals and the foods and stuff that the chemicals and the medications and stuff that we take. It's the fact that you're actually doing something to break down the encasement of the virus itself. If we clicked on antibacterial soap, you can skip it. Just use plain soap and water. When you buy soaps and body washes, do you reach for products labeled antibacterial, hoping they'll keep your family safer? Do you think those products will lower your risk of getting sick, spreading germs, or being infected? According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, there isn't enough science to show over-the-counter antibacterial soaps are better at preventing illness than washing with plain soap and water. To date, the benefits of using antibacterial hand soap haven't been proven. In addition, the wide use of these products over a long time has raised the question of potential negative effects on your health. They're saying that the stuff that they use in these soaps, these antibacterial soaps, have a stronger correlation to bad things happening than just using a regular soap without them, because there's no positives that they're saying. After studying the issue, including reviewing available literature and hosting public meetings, in 2013, the FDA issued a proposed rule requiring safety and efficacy data from manufacturers, consumers, and others if wanted to continue marketing antibacterial products containing those ingredients. But very little information has been provided. That's why the FDA is issuing a final rule under which the over-the-counter consumer antiseptic wash products, including liquid, foam, gel, hand soaps, bar soaps, and body washes containing the majority of antibacterial active ingredients, include triclosan, triclocarbon, will no longer be able to be marketed. Why? Because these manufacturers haven't proven that these ingredients are safe for daily use over a long period of time. Also, manufacturers haven't shown that these ingredients are any more effective than plain soap and water in preventing illness and the spread of certain infections. Some manufacturers have already started removing those ingredients from their products ahead of the FDA's final rule. Following simple hand washing practices is one of the most effective ways to prevent the spread of many types of infection and illness at home, at school, or elsewhere, says Theresa M. Michelle, MD of the FDA's Division of Non-Prescription Drug Products. We can't advise this enough. It's simple and it works. The FDA's final rule covers only consumer antibacterial soaps and body washes that are used with water. It does not apply to hand sanitizers and/or wipes. It also does not apply to antibacterial soaps that are used in healthcare settings, such as hospitals or nursing homes. And it's antibacterial. What makes it antibacterial is antibacterial soaps, sometimes called antimicrobial or antiseptic soaps, contain certain chemicals not found in plain soaps. These ingredients are added to many consumer products with the intent of reducing or preventing bacterial infection. There's no demonstrating that these drugs provide additional protection from disease and infections, triclosan, and health concerns. Triclosan can be found in many places today. It has been added to many consumer products, including clothing, kitchenware, furniture, and toys, to prevent bacterial contamination. Laboratory studies have raised the possibility that triclosan contributes to the making bacteria-resistant antibiotics. Some data shows this resistance may have a significant impact on the effectiveness of medical treatments such as antibiotics. The FDA, Environmental Protection Agency, have been following and collaborating on scientific and regulatory issues related to triclosan. The EPA regulates the use of triclosan as a pesticide and is in the process of updating its assessment of the effects of triclosan when it's used in pesticides. The FDA's focus is on the effects of triclosan when it's used by consumers on a regular basis in hand soaps and body washes. So we're using antibacterial microbial soaps, and some of the products that are in there are listed as pesticides or possible pesticides. Consumers keep washing with plain soap and water. So it's kind of a different outlook there if you want to look at the gist of things. I don't want to get into playing this video. If you look here at Blank Children's Hospital, antibacterial soaps versus regular soap, which one's better? Another one, antibacterial soap, is any cleaning product which active antimicrobial ingredients are added. Today, more than 75% of liquid soaps available in our grocery store aisles contain some type of antibacterial ingredient. Triclosan is the most common. Some antibacterial products contain alcohol, benzalkonium chloride, and other antibacterial agents. Pros of the soap: cleaning products are effective in healthcare settings hand sanitizer that has at least 60% alcohol levels is effective when a person can't have access to soap. But notice that's secondary. If you can wash your hands, that's primary, even over the hand sanitizer. Antibacterial cleaning products are effective for cleaning tasks. Cons: the FDA said that there is no evidence that the antibacterial soap keeps people healthier than regular soap. Overuse of an antibacterial product can reduce the amount of healthy bacteria on a person's skin, which can make antibiotics less effective in the fight against new strains of bacteria called superbugs. Using antibacterial soap or hand sanitizer can cause people to think that they do not have to wash their hands thoroughly or frequently, which this is true because I've thought that myself before. Oh, I'll just hand sanitize, and that doesn't work that way. So get out of here and let's go to click off of that. So and they're saying that overnight they're already starting to see the stock market going up big time because of this new stimulus agreement. Right, New York Times. We don't want to do that. I want to do the Fox News one. Here. All right, so this is the new deal on the stimulus package. I think it's like 12:07 last night. It was posted, and I was awake when somebody shared it. The deal reached on the $2 trillion coronavirus stimulus package. Trump flexible with coronavirus timeline. White House, Senate reach late deal on $2 trillion coronavirus stimulus package. White House and Senate leaders reached a historic deal shortly after midnight Wednesday on a massive $2 trillion coronavirus relief package. Although support in the House of Representatives remained uncertain as one member openly criticized the plan. I wonder who that was. The bipartisan breakthrough in the Senate capped days of heated negotiations that had nearly been derailed by last-minute demands from the House of Democrats. Go figure. Ladies and gentlemen, we are done. The White House Legislative Affairs Director Eric Ueland announced as he left the office. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell archived. Near midnight, we have a deal. Much of the work on the bill text has been completed, and I'm hopeful over the next few hours we will finish what's left and will circulate it early in the morning. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, DNY, said the bill amounts to unemployment compensation on steroids and that every American who's laid off will have their missed salary remunerated. I can't even say remunerated. Basically, that means remunerated. I looked up last night. It said something to pay people for their services. So in this particular case, you would still be getting paid. I guess the way this reads is, until we know more, is I'm assuming they're going to compensate you for what you would have already made, not a decreased amount. Every American who's laid off will have their missed salary remunerated, basically paid for the services that they would have done. That provision will enable companies to stay afloat and immediately bring back those employees when things are safe. Still, trouble may be on the horizon for the bill. Michigan Independent Representative or Republican Justin Amash, who recently left the Republican Party, signaled that he might essentially delay consideration of the bill in the House. The lower chamber may seek to pass legislation via unanimous consent because Many members are not in Washington, but a single member can ruin the plan. Coronavirus task force member Anthony Fauci said that the Ingram angle on Tuesday that the President Trump's Easter timeline to reboot the economy was aspirational, adding that the president and his team were on the same page, that everyone understands the timeline for the coronavirus outbreak needs to be flexible. The president clearly listens. I mean, he has this aspirational goal of hoping that we might be able to do it by a certain date. We talked to him about that. We say we need to be flexible. He realizes that and accepts that. Fauci told Laura Ingram, I mean, he doesn't want to give up his aspirational goal, but is flexible enough to know, or to say, okay, let's look at it one day by day basis, or on a day by day basis, and we will give him the data to inform that decision. So basically, when you continue to read here, it talks about since his decision, State Department voices support for Chinese ambassador who says it's crazy to blame coronavirus on U.S. military. So there's a lot of things getting thrown around. There's a lot of articles that popped up overnight that weren't here before that are tailored to this message. Don't focus so much on them, just on this upper portion up here, because all that stuff on the bottom is just a bunch of complete jargon, garbage, drama. Yeah, so we're going to stop screen sharing. So that's where we're at right now. It seems like people, they've agreed overnight to basically pay people for the services that they would have made and give people the money that they would have made in the context of them being unemployed. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on right now, and there's a lot of stuff that I don't know if people know what their rights are. Somebody posted on my Facebook group this morning that their landlord in the situation decided that they wanted to raise the entire apartment complex's rent by 40%. That's illegal. You cannot do that. That would never stand up in court. Somebody would be able to live in your facility while you try to evict them for months and months and months and months and months. And then when it went to court, after the due process has went through, which there's several stages that this has to go through, you have to attempt to evict them. You have to give them a notice to fix whatever it is wrong. By raising their rent 40%, you would lose your ass on that. There's no way that they would allow that kind of inflation to occur. So you have to go through an eviction process, and that should be to the extent of, I'm giving you a warning, you're not paying the 40%. Okay, you can't pay the 40%. I'm going to give you a time frame to pay that 40%. Oh, you still haven't been able to pay that 40%? Okay, I'm giving you a 5-day notice to quit. You get 5 days to get out. Okay, you're not out at the end of that 5 days. Well, now I'm going to court. Now we're going to go through an eviction process. So now we go to court. You go to court. You go up in front of the judge. The judge hears what you have to say. He's going to throw it out because it's complete BS. It's jargon. You cannot do that to people. It's not going to work that way. You have rates that are based on an economical standard. It's based on the quality of your home and the fair value that you've set through a lease. And until you come up with a lease or some kind of agreement to all of a sudden say, okay, this is what's going to happen, that would never stand. People would have to agree to that first. You can't take a $1,200 apartment and you've done no upgrades to it to make it a better place, a fancier place, a nicer, more valuable living place, and then say, all right, I'm going to raise everything by 40% and have done nothing to it and expect people to be okay with that. I would tell you to screw off, blow it up your ass, and I'm going to continue living here for the next 3 or 4 months while you fight it in court, and then lose your ass at the end of it. And the judge tells you basically you just wasted your time for the last 4 months because what you're doing is ridiculous. You will lose horribly. If somebody is willing and able to pay the rent that they were originally paying, and then all of a sudden you spring a 40% increase in rent on them, you lose badly. And you're going to lose months and months and months of rent. If you would have been fair about it, maybe left it the same, or maybe even if you increased it 5% or said, you know what, you went from $1,200 to $1,260 or something like that, and they could still come up with and agree to that. But if you're at, $1,200 and you raise your rent by 40%, we'll call it $1,500. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy, especially the time that we're in right now. And she said she's worried because her family's going to get removed if they can't pay it. I don't know how true the story is, but this is the person that said it directly happened and affected them. And I know a lot of people during these times like to, in the aspects of, turmoil in their life, they like to be hypochondriacs. They like to overplay things and make things worse than what they are. But if that happened to me, I would definitely have a very, very fun day with that landlord. He would be paying me, he would be losing 3 or 4 months of rent, because people don't know the law. People don't know that there's a step process that you have to go through to evict somebody if they don't pay the money. And raising the rent 40%, I would live there rent free for 3 or 4 months. I would make him think twice about doing that to somebody. And then at the end of it, going back down to his original rate because he would lose his ass in court. That's ridiculous. You cannot do that to people. There's a process you have to go through to make people leave your facility anyway. So why would you even chance wasting months and months and months of rent while you're still paying a mortgage on a facility to turn around and lose after months? There's so much protection for the tenants that are in place, and there's minimal protection for the people that own the properties. So, I mean, there's protection there for them, don't get me wrong, but it's a due process that you have to go through. Why do you think it's so hard to allow somebody to come live with you? And after they've lived with you for an extended amount of time and they've established a residence with you, even if they're not on the lease or anything, you can't just throw them out. They put laws and stuff to protect that as well. Yeah, ideally, you think you can go throw them out, get your shit, get out, go, get out of here, you got to go. But after somebody's been living there for, say, 30, 60 days and they've established a place of residence and they now have an address, I'm not saying that it's right. Even if they've done you completely wrong, you can't just throw them out. They put laws and provisions in most states in place to say, you know what, that person's been there X amount of days. They've established some kind of home setting here, and now all of a sudden there's a problem. So outside of whatever your excuse is for removing them, they still have to have a certain amount of time to leave the residence and or find another place to live in the meantime, not just leave. So a lot of people think that it's much easier than what it is, and it's not. A lot of people get worried during times of, I've seen ladies on Facebook post, I'm a single mother and I'm afraid that I'm going to be short on this month's rent, and I've got some stuff that I got to pay. I might be a week or 2 weeks late. Call your landlord up and check with them. Talk to them about the situation. More than likely, they're going to be more than willing to deal with you, and they're going to be very understanding, especially if you're a person that's paid your bills on time. And then one lady said that she said we're going to be evicted because the landlord wants to move their kid into the home and then move us out, and we're not even up on our lease. You can't. That's what a lease is in place for. They cannot remove you. So regardless if they want to put your kid in that home or not, because they want their baby boy or baby girl to be home, can't do it. That's why you have a lease to protect you. And even at that, even if there was no real lease and the lease was up, you couldn't be forced to move out of the home anyway. You could fight it to the max and end up paying nothing for months and then them tell you to move out of the home. So there's so many provisions and extensions and processes that a property owner has to go through. It's almost not even worth being a property owner unless you have a management company do it for you. They can take the heat off your back and you just own the properties. And they are the ones that manage it because they know the law, they know what happens, they know what can and can't be done. Because unfortunately, a lot of property owners don't even know what the laws are. They don't know what the provisions are. They know that they own a 3-story apartment building and they honestly think that they can call the shots whenever they want to because they're the owner. That's not the case. You're dealing with the public now. You're renting something out. You're providing a dwelling for somebody that is giving you a monetary value to be able to have access to that home whenever they want, even though it's not theirs. So you have to understand the laws that are put in place whenever you provide a service to the public, from the private sector to the public sector. And you can't just say, oh, get out. It doesn't work that way. Even if somebody's a week late or 2 weeks late, even if they're a month late on rent or 2 months late on rent, there's still a process that you have to go through. You can't, okay, just get out. I went through this. I lived out in Sheridan, Illinois, and I rented a little country home from a guy named Herb Comer, and he tried to evict me. He gave me a 5-day notice to quit. And I said, you can't do nothing to me. You can't do anything to me. Granted, I didn't like the guy enough to try to fight it to stay there. I just went ahead within the 5 days and got out anyway. But I made sure that he knew in those 5 days. I had the sheriff come out to the house. The sheriff came out and said, you can't even do this. And I was in the process of silently packing my stuff up and moving anyway. But I wanted to prove a point to this old man that did not know the law. The sheriff came out and he said, you can't just move somebody out because you want to move your nephew in. You can't. He said, well, this guy lives month to month. He doesn't have a lease with me. And they said, it doesn't matter. He's established a residence here. And when you establish a residence for an extended amount of time somewhere, you just can't move somebody out. You have to give them the due process, 30 days, 60 days of getting their stuff and moving out, especially when you don't have a lease. No, you can't do that. If you've established any type of residence anywhere, even in somebody's home, even renting out a room, that's considered an establishment of your dwelling in that home, and that's your well-being place. That's a place you go to every single day that you've established mail to come to. You possibly generate. This is where your health and stuff is dependent on for you to sleep and rejuvenate yourself every single day. The access to hot water and a shower and stuff like that, and the ability to possibly cook your meals if you need to. You can't just remove somebody. It doesn't work. So I would have the sheriff come out on the first day, and he explained to him that you have to go through a whole entire process to remove this guy from your home. And then the second day, the sheriff came back out. I actually had him tell the guy, look, you can't keep coming by here and bothering him. It doesn't like what you want. And I was, again, silently moving all my stuff from the house into the garage so I can just open the garage door, load it up onto the U-Haul and be gone. And he kept coming by the house, knocking on the door, asking me when I was leaving. And I finally got tired of it, called the sheriff up the second day, and I had him come back out there, and he told him, hey, look, I understand you own the property, but you can't harass this guy. You have to go through the process of removing him. You have to go to court. You got to get documents wrote up. You got to serve him. If he's not out by the serving date, then the sheriff department can get a set date to come back out at a later time to remove him. But this is a whole entire due process that you have to go through. It's not something that could just happen to remove somebody from their home. And it was very frustrating to him. But just from the fact that I knew how much of a snake he was in general, I was, like I said, moving everything into the garage, just keeping the doors closed and the blinds pulled down, so I didn't want him to see what I was doing. And then on the fifth day that he wanted me out of there, I pulled up in a U-Haul truck, and he came over, and he was asking me, oh, you're leaving? You're moving? And all? Yeah, I am. I was moving the whole entire time, but I just wanted you to know that you were breaking the law, and you can't do the stuff that you were doing. And I wanted to prove a point. So now that old man knows you can't just do whatever you want to people. It doesn't work that way. You have to follow the law. You have to work with inside those provisions. So there's a lot of goofy stuff. It seems like it's going on right now in the world. And a lot of it I don't understand. I don't understand why people are doing this stuff. So I don't know. That's the gist of this morning's talk. I wanted to share with you guys the fact that they did come up with some kind of stimulus package that they're working on. It's supposed to be done sometime this morning. They've finally agreed that they're going to try to do some kind of the way it's written right now, without us knowing more. The stimulus package is written as if they're going to compensate people for some type of what they would have made, not just on the minimum scale of like being unemployed and then paying you unemployment pay. The way it's written to me, I know everybody has an opinion. They're like assholes. Everybody's got one. But the way it's written to me is that they're going to try to compensate you for what you would have made. That's from what I'm seeing from a couple different articles that have wrote about this. Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice that they would have more than just the minimum. There's something like tons of money put away too, like $500 billion that also put aside for other funding that companies and stuff would have lost as well. So not only is the individual person going to get money, for some reason that article doesn't look exactly the way it looked last night. That article last night posted more about there's excessive amount of, like, billions of dollars put away to actually help companies, the smaller companies, fund them in paying their bills and things like that. If they're not making money, they need help as well. So it wasn't just the provisions to pay people that aren't getting paid. It's the provisions that actually help the companies pay their bills so their businesses stay afloat, as well as there's direct money to the person that's helping them get paid for what they didn't make, monetary wise. So it looks good. I mean, it looks like maybe they did a lot better than what they were going to do with Pelosi's digital wallet scheme that she was trying to pull. That's just going to have more tracking and stuff on what's going on with people's money anyway. This digital wallet from the federal government to the bank, and then from the bank to you. It's like, why try to create some kind of new currency deal, or why try to create some kind of new plan where you're this digital wallet where you're tracking, or whatever the heck it was. I don't know. It was ridiculous. It got shot down immediately, and that was Pelosi's idea. So that's it this morning. Anything else you guys want to talk about before I get off of here? If not, I'm going to close it out now so you're not listening to me ramble for an hour. And I'm going to go pick up some car parts. Get a little exhaust link out of Lincoln. So I'm going to go into work, put it up in the air, rip the exhaust off of it, repair everything, and then try to make some kind of production happen with today, since it's not happening at work. They called me into work yesterday. They said, if you want to come in, we got about 7 jobs booked for the day. So I went in, and it was nothing. It was absolutely garbage. They brought a 2010 Shelby Mustang in, gorgeous car, GT500, and I did oil change on it, airbag recall, and that was it. Nothing came in for the rest of the day. So it was a waste of time even going in. I mean, some money's better than no money, but instead I went ahead and worked on the Lincoln Town Car. I got it all undercoated and got the exhaust cut off of it, so it sounds like a race car now. But I'm trying to get the exhaust manifolds and stuff put up. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Yeah, I mean, right now the way it's looking, and that's what a lot of people are saying. A lot of people are saying that, especially after the stimulus package that Trump is talking about putting up and agreeing to, that is huge for him. That his acceptance rate now has risen by 8%. That he's even in a further acceptance slot than he was before. That the projection of the stock market to go up over this has, if not already, increasing substantially. So it's going to be really, really big for him. It actually turned the other way. People thought it was going to be bad because of how he was responding to things, but it's not the case at all. It's going to be really good for him. Yeah. So what I did to the car yesterday, you guys probably don't care about this. I know one person does, but some of you probably don't. Let me get out of that. Go here. Share screen, Chrome tab, Facebook. This is what I did yesterday. I tried to stay productive, and I try to stay pretty positive overall if I can. Here's what I did. I went through and I ground down all this rust that was here, this rust that was building up on this back channel of the car. I went down the entire frame, all the way to the rear end, all the way across the rear end here. You can see where I had to cut the exhaust off because it was leaking back here. So I cut the exhaust off here and dumped it right by the tires. And I went ahead and treated the entire rear end, the bottom metal brackets, the bottom of the tank. And now all I have is this front part right here to treat, but everything's been undercoated. I love that sound. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I use hand sanitizer when I can't wash hands. I wear a mask all the time now. That's it, guys. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on this morning? I don't know. This camera looks weird. Whenever I look at myself in this camera, it doesn't look like it's very good quality, but it said this was like the best Logitech 1080p camera you can buy, but it like almost makes it look like the screen is hazy sometimes when I'm on it. It's an HD 1080p something 900 series. I paid a lot of money for it, but I'm not sure how it shows up. It's supposed to have its own built-in type green screen. If you know how to use it, you can set it up that way. You can use green screens that enhance it even more. I'm not sure how it ends up on this camera, but that's it. Let's start our mornings, and I'm gonna go pick up car parts right now. I'm gonna fix this exhaust leak that I have on the front of the car. So, bye-bye. I'll see y'all later. Be blessed.